Anyway, so I already know Final Cut. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go back to Final Cut.
Yeah,
But I had
that's what I learned on.
But I had to move my entire Final Cut library off the computer because it's like at this point it's like 300 gigs.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, I can just work off of an external, but obviously that's really slow. So I bought a 2 terabyte external SSD.
Oy.
It was like $300.
Yeah.
And I lost it in the couch.
Jesus.
Like a week later. It wasn't lost, though. It was in my lunchbox in the fridge at work.
That was...
Anyways.
What do we do? Are you going to intro? Are we going to talk about how we know each other? Do you have a jingle? Can Vicky make you a jingle for when you start your...
Oh, right. We gotta wait for the countdown. Jamie, pull it up. All right. So, Megan Munsell back again. Today we're coming with Taz. Introduce yourself.
My name is Taz. I have been friends with...
Full name.
Oh, Tassjania Lozano Stenner.
Okay.
And
I like it.
I've been friends with Megan and Vicky for...
Since we moved here, 2014.
Yeah.
We moved
That
to
long,
Texas.
6 years.
Mm-hmm. We moved to Texas March 2014.
Mm-hmm. And I remember when I first met you, you looked like Jimmy Neutron. And one of the first times we all went out to this place called The Slip-In, R.I.P.
You remember this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember learning that Vicky, because that was the first time I met Vicky.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and so
I bring her sometimes.
And so I remember her telling me that she had studied like audio something rather, and we just talked about it all night, and it was crazy. And here we are. And I remember learning that you guys were going to get married at some point, and immediately I said, I'm going to go to your wedding. And indeed, I went to your wedding, and I was almost late, even though I had traveled across the United States to go, but thankfully you guys were running late because you didn't like Vicky's hair.
It's true.
And so
I made
it
Mm-hmm.
just in time for your wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True story. We got married 2015.
Yes.
And, you know you're, like, not supposed to see your bride before the wedding?
Yeah. That was not going to happen between you guys at all.
So I walk in, like, the bridal room of our...
Which bridal room? There was 2. Just kidding.
Oh, man. It's actually really funny because Vicky was in a bridal room with, like, her friends, and they were all fixing her up and this and that, whatever. And I was just by myself in the other room. I think with Johnny, our photographer. He, like, took pictures of me. And then he was like, well, what now? And I was like, I don't know. It's just me and Johnny hanging out like bros. I didn't have any, like, friends. But anyways, so I, like, go across the hall to the bridal room, which is, like, Vicky and her friends and my sister and all this. And I look inside, and I see her hair. And I was like, no. And they're like, they're like, what? And I was like, redo it.
Yeah.
And they're like, we already took pictures. And I was like, I don't care. Redo her hair. And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, one of y'all fix it. And it made our wedding late because I literally lost it. And
I'm so grateful.
I want to tell you, in hindsight, I did not regret that decision. It looked so much better after they redid it.
How about her teal polish?
Beautiful.
She was lovely. She was absolutely lovely.
Beautiful. I'm so glad because we redid her hair. She looked amazing.
It was an awesome wedding. We had barbecue.
Yeah. From like
great.
some local place over there.
And then afterward, remember we went to Outback Steakhouse.
Yes. We had our goal was to have the cheapest wedding of all time.
It was great though. It was still like really beautiful. Like the venue was really, really sweet. And it was great. It was great.
My goal, oh man, I was such an asshole about the whole thing because I just thought it was the stupidest thing.
It was lovely. It was so lovely.
In hindsight, you know, I'm glad we did it, but I was like, how much is this? It's not worth it. And they're like, man, just chill like out.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah, we went to Outback, and here we are.
I love it.
It was in Maryland, but we were all living in Texas, and you included, and we all flew to Maryland for the wedding.
We did.
And you came.
I did.
With your boyfriend at the time.
At the time.
Not current boyfriend.
Not anymore.
And here we are, still friends.
Yeah, look at us.
We've made it.
Look at us. Would you look at us?
I won't even go down that road. But yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Your hair is much longer now. You don't look like Jimmy Neutron.
No.
You also don't look like Paige. What's her face?
No. No. I'm a normal, regular person now.
You are.
Yeah.
You're lovely.
Okay, so
I'm excited.
Yeah. So Taz and I want to have a conversation. I actually just asked her to do this.
I asked to be on here, and then she decided the topic, and I was okay with it.
Yeah. I never, ever, ever talk about anything controversial just by being gay. I never really talk about being gay. I mean, we acknowledge that we're gay, but we never, like, talk about pride stuff or anything like that. It's not a conversation about being gay, but I'm never
ever... It's the only part of you.
Yeah. I never talk about anything controversial. This one hopefully won't be too controversial, but I think it's really cool because you and I on paper are very, very, very different people.
Yeah.
Obviously, my whole world revolves around fitness. My job revolves around making time for fitness. And on paper, we're very different. Yeah. But yet, very close friends.
Yes.
And I wanted to have a conversation about being different and yet having honest conversations.
Yeah.
And maybe, like, I feel like right now, people use everything as a very divisive conversation. Yeah. Even the masks, right? Like, whether or not you should wear a mask right now is this super polarized conversation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy to me how I feel like our culture has come to a place where it's me versus you all the time. And it's like, if I disagree with you, then we're done. And it's not like, hey, we are different, but that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anyways, I just you're very different than me, but we have a good relationship, so I thought this would be a really great opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah. And I feel like right before we started recording, we kind of talked about, like, okay, hey, this is the flow where I want to talk about this, blah, blah, blah. And I think ultimately, once I've thought about it a lot more, I think it comes down to, like, our personal identity. We both feel incredibly strong in who we are. Therefore, whenever we do have differences, it doesn't change my world. It doesn't, like, throw my life upside down or anything like that. And I think because I'm confident in who I am and you're confident in who you are, we can then respect that. Like, it doesn't change anything for me. I'm not, like, threatened by our differences. If anything, I'm like, okay, well, she's simply different than I am in the same way you can acknowledge and celebrate my differences, right? And I also think it comes down to, like, I just firmly love people, right? I love people of all kinds. I love people of different backgrounds, different races, age, whatever that looks like. And so if I love people, then I see that they have immeasurable value. Then, like, it doesn't matter what they think or how they think or what they are. I mean, even people that I firmly disagree with, right? Like, let's just go to I don't know, something super, super crazy. I can still acknowledge that they have, like, value, and I can still honor that and celebrate something in them. And again, like, there are people who definitely impact my life, but I can still find something to celebrate. And so let's just say someone, I don't know, doesn't think that, like, women should work at a church or vote. Yeah, like something super, super wild. I'd be like, okay, well, I firmly disagree with you, but there must be a reason that you came to this conclusion. I might not agree with it, but it doesn't impact anything in my life. Like, I still firmly believe that it's okay and normal for women to vote. Completely acceptable. But I think it just comes down to how you see other people and how, you know, what your personal identity is. But
yeah, I told you the other day that I wanted to have this conversation, and then you were like, "Oh yeah, we just had the sermon about this at church. You should watch the sermon." And I was like, "Okay." And you sent me a link, and I was at work, and I did watch it.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with this. It was about race.
Yes.
Specifically race. And I was like, I don't think we disagree about race at all.
Yeah, no, and that's so funny. I wonder why in the context I sent it to you, but I think it comes down to, like, it was 4 pastors, and it was 2 black pastors and 2 white pastors. And I think they were a lot of what we were talking about, I guess, on the identity part of it, and just being okay to, like, celebrate each other's differences. Like, I think in that conversation, they address, like, whenever people are like, I don't see color. And it's like, well, no, acknowledging color and celebrating, like, differences allows you to then, keep moving forward in your own personal identity. Like, it only makes our lives richer and things like that. So I guess I want to go back to that text conversation. But I feel like there has to be a reason why I sent it.
I literally clicked through and I was like, maybe she's trying to say something.
Maybe you're a little bit racist.
You're
really not, though.
I was thinking about it while I was watching that video, and I think about things all the time. I'm like, Vicky, You know what I was thinking today? And she's like, it could be anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be like, I decided I wanted a new backpack, or I had a really deep philosophical discovery. But anyways, so I was actually driving home after I was watching that sermon, and I was thinking about how it was really profound, but not necessarily related to what we were talking about. And I was like, you know what? There was not a black person at my high school.
What? When's the first time? Okay. Did you have any teachers of color growing up?
His
Latino?
No.
When's the first time you had a teacher or like a leader of that was a person of color?
Apple.
Stop.
Joanne.
In DC?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's wild.
Woman changed my life.
That's so wild.
I keep meaning to reach out to her.
So I actually had a conversation. Somebody posted it, and they're like, when's the first time you had a teacher that was a person of color? And in 5th grade, I had a teacher named Mr. Sandhu. He was of Indian descent, but his skin color was black. And like
Dope.
that, I don't know. I mean, it sticks out to me now in retrospect, but back then I didn't think anything of it. But also
Yeah.
I grew up where everyone looked like me. So everyone was brown, spoke English and Spanish.
Yeah.
You know, that was definitely different.
Yeah, so you're from El Paso.
Yes. 915.
Uh-huh. And I lived in Juarez for a little while.
You did.
Which is across the border on
Yep.
the Mexico side.
And do people know that hablas español?
Poquito.
Good. She does. She speaks Spanish. She
I
can
know.
definitely have a conversation.
I like to practice. I practice whenever possible.
Yeah. you do
Usually
great.
it's when we have folks try to help us with our house. I love I love living in Texas.
Whenever people come to our house to help us.
Well, because now I work at the government. I never get to practice Spanish. I only
Okay.
sit with the one guy. When I was at the gym, we had a lot of different folks, and I used to practice Spanish all the time at the gym. But now I never get to practice.
I think we should do another podcast, shorter and in Spanish, for all of your Spanish viewers.
I won't be great. My Spanish is getting rusty.
I think we can definitely preface
Anyways.
that you're practicing
So
Spanish.
you grew up in El Paso your whole life?
Mm-hmm.
And for those of my millions of viewers, El Paso, most residents of El Paso are Hispanic.
Mhm.
And most speak fluent English and Spanish.
Yes, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like over half, I would say.
Yeah. And I think like that's really cool. I mean, El Paso has a huge population of people who cross the border daily,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? So I was born in San Antonio, and then my dad...
I wasn't. I lived in San Antonio for a while. I was like, me too, but that's not true.
Yeah, no, that was a lie. So my dad is from Juarez. My mom is from Chihuahua. So it's like 4 hours away from El Paso. And they met while my dad was in medical school. My mom came up here. I mean, my dad crossed over. His dad had business here, etc. So when he was 16, he started coming to school here. Like his whole life, he was here.
Yeah.
And so my dad predominantly spoke English in the house. My mom predominantly spoke Spanish. Both my parents speak English and Spanish. And so it was just really like common and normal. And then when I was, I guess, 12 or 13, my dad started a medical practice in Juarez, and he would cross over every single day. Like that was just super normal. So he would leave, in the morning, and then on his way back, he was just coming back from Mexico. So his office was just right across the border. So it's really, really common. There's kids who come to school there.
Yeah.
People.
I think that there's not enough knowledge about, like, I guess in like the broader the United States, because I think we have such a polarized opinion through the media of the border, right?
Yeah.
And like a lot of people cross from the United States into Mexico every day, or from Mexico into the United States to work every day.
Yeah.
And that's just a really, really fluid
Yeah.
situation that's now
Yeah.
become this whole dramatic thing.
Yeah. And I mean, the distance is literally, we're in Dallas.
Yeah.
And so I live in downtown Dallas. You live in Plano.
Yeah.
No traffic. It takes me 30 minutes to get here.
Yeah.
Where I grew up and where my dad's office was a 9-minute difference, like a 9-minute drive from El Paso, crossing the border over to Mexico into Juarez.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I ever saw it polarized till recently. Like I never saw like this exaggerated conversation until recently. And so whenever people, number one, people continuously think that El Paso is Mexico, and it's not. Yes, people are always like, oh, from Mexico. And I'm like, no, it's still in the States. And I'd never thought anything of it. Like I knew of other border towns. I knew that like we had a border town that was just like our neighboring city. It would be literally like Dallas and Fort Worth. That's what it was like to
I
me
think
growing up.
they're even closer.
It
would
they're
be
way
like
closer.
it's like Plano and Richardson.
Yeah.
But I think it's even like from where we were like waiting in line to cross the border.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I lived in Juarez, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually lived in Mexico.
Yeah.
So we would buy groceries in El Paso, and you're sitting at the, you're like driving through through El Paso, like from the grocery store, and like you can like look out your window and see into Juarez.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're close enough to see kids' faces.
Yeah.
It's like from here, like me waving at the neighbor.
Yes.
There just happens to be, there's like a chain link fence and then like a concrete culvert, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm. It's changed a little bit recently because there's the wall, but you can still see close enough to like see people's faces, or it would be the equivalent of like a large block away.
Right.
Yeah.
I was living there before
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, it's
Current
crazy because I remember I didn't used to go home as often as I do now. Like I used to go home maybe like once or twice a year, and going during like Christmas and then coming back in the summer, and it was like the wall being built, and it was like you had this idea of separation, but it always felt a lot closer, and the wall made it really, really distinct that it was like two separate countries, us versus them, and that was never my experience growing up, and so I think that definitely speaks to like even our current times where like right now, I'm just gonna like paint a much bigger picture, but like I don't understand what the United States is so threatened by. Like yes, we have a lot of things available to us. Sorry guys, that's my dog in the background. We have so many things available to us, but I think like we've lost who we are, that we are threatened by someone else wanting to be like, hey, like I want to contribute. And oh my gosh, it's such a small percentage of people who come in and abuse like the systems we have. And it's like, when did you lose your sense of identity and who you are, America, that you are so threatened by the very small portion of like immigrants that are coming over to try to, in quote, take over your land,
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, like the reason that we can have differences is because I think we do have strong identity in ourselves and we know who we are. And it doesn't change anything one way or another. And I think like I feel like in Clueless, like whenever she's giving the reference of like, she's like, I'm trying to think what it is. She's like in debate class and she's quoting two totally different stories and comparing it to, I don't know what the story is. Whatever. That was a
So
rabbit
you're
trail.
Alicia Silverstone.
I am Alicia Silverstone.
And
I'm trying to remember what the exact story is. You guys can go back and watch it, but I promise I'm going to get to a point. So ultimately, the United States just needs to go back like, hey, these are American values. These are things that we like hold true. These are things that are important to us. And then the thing is like, if someone else comes in and tries, I don't know, to threaten that, it's like, hey man, like we're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to make sure that we're good. We love you. You're great over there. But I don't think there's like this need to cause like this absolute division the way we currently have it.
I know. Like obviously, like I lived in Juarez, and I had all my friends were Mexican that lived in Juarez, and I had a lot of conversations with them about immigration and stuff like that at the time, which it wasn't anything like what it is now. But it's like, I think a lot of our economy has shifted away from different. Cardi, you got to go inside if you're not going to chill.
For real. I'm sorry, guys. Ever since I've been sheltered in home, all she wants to do is spend time by my side. Vicky, you're the best. Thank you.
Yeah. But like I said, so I mean, I think our economy is shifting, and I think a lot of folks have lost jobs. And I don't necessarily think we should blame the president or blame immigrants or blame whomever. I think like our people are going to have, I think we're all going to have to adapt, right, as we grow as a country, as times change. And I get frustrations. I think blame is sort of misguided, but that's a personal value. The other thing I did want to touch on with you is that you work for a church.
I do.
We touched on it for a brief second when you said that you sent me a sermon.
I promise it was relevant at some point. There was something there that...
But you work full-time for a church.
I do.
That's your day job.
That's what I do.
Church.
Yeah,
And
so I'm in what's called vocational ministry. So it's what I do fully as a job. Like, it's not like I'm not just like, I'm not a pastor. I hold a job.
I'm kidding.
I hold a job at a church.
Which is actually kind of crazy because so a lot of my friends that don't live in Texas don't necessarily understand the magnitude of Southern churches.
Yeah.
And the fact that they have full staffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your job at the church?
Yeah. So the title that I was hired for is Director of Connect Groups. And so in church terms, that simply means like small groups or gatherings of people at our church. So it's the way that a large church feels smaller and how you're able to connect in much smaller groups, have conversations, meet new people, make friends, things like that. Yeah. But I have the amazing opportunity and honor to oversee our internship program, and then, you know, a few things here and there in between. My role has changed a little bit right now that we're in quarantine. But yeah, those are the two major things that I get to do.
Yeah. So your church is large enough.
Yeah.
Would we consider it a mega church?
So I think by number terms, yes.
Yeah.
But the way it feels is very different. And
if y'all need pro audio equipment, I have a plug.
Thanks. I know her. So yeah, I think by the numbers, yes, it's considered a mega church, but it doesn't feel that way. And so like, we're really, really intentional about a church that, yes, it grows because it's healthy, but it feels small. And so you would never go into like one of our locations and be like, this church is huge. Nobody knows me. I don't know anyone. Like, our biggest space fits 800 people, which is, I mean, yes, it's a lot of people, but...
I'm like, if you're about to say that's a small church, I'm about to be like, okay.
So our biggest space fits 800 people, but when you're in that auditorium, it doesn't feel all that big, and you get to see like the same people week to week and things like that.
Yeah, and I don't go to church.
You don't? That's okay.
I was in a Christian sorority in college. And very active in church.
Yeah.
I mean, Christian faith, but I would say, like, I was just very active in church. And as I came out as a gay person, felt some backlash.
Yeah.
And no longer attend church. And I think, I'm not going to speak for every single gay person, but I would say a lot of the gay community feels that way.
Yeah.
And I would say a lot of the gay community feels not super fond of churches.
Yeah, and I would understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you've said to me often that I should come to your church.
Yeah, I would love for you to.
Because that's what churchy people do. You should come to my church.
Yeah.
And I say often as a gay person, that feels like a trap.
Yeah.
Because churches are always like, you should come, and like, we're so cool with you, until they're not. And then all of a sudden, someday, there's some sort of sermon about marriage, and that makes you feel incredibly uncomfortable in your own existence, and you never go back.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I haven't been to a church service in a long time.
Yeah. You went to Easter service or Good Friday service. You watched it online.
Yeah, I did. We put it, I would say we put it on to humor you.
Rude.
No, actually, we did watch the whole thing. I just lied. But it was on his porch.
Yeah?
Yeah. And we watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's different, right? It's very themed. Again, like I said, as a gay person, you always feel very, very welcome in the church until all of a sudden you're not.
Yeah.
And then you have all of these, like, really traumatic emotions just come, like, rushing back as you're, like, you know, they're talking about the nature of a marriage and this and that and whatever, and all of a sudden, you know, you have those same embarrassing feelings that you had when you were 16 years old. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I just want to crawl into a hole and die
totally,
right now.
Totally. And I think that is two-way, right? Like, I don't think... and I'm going to speak for the global church. I'm not going to talk about my church specifically.
Like organized church?
Yeah, like I think like just the church in general, whenever we talk about like the Christian church. So whenever we talk about like just the church in general, like I don't think we've done a good job about focusing on what I would call majors and minors. And so it's like a major is, and we've talked about this, like above everything, you are my friend Megan. like you being gay or married like is separate the same way that I'm like straight and single. Like it's not a highlight of you and I's friendship. Like I think there's so much more than that. And so my major is that I love you and I care about you and I see you as a human being who adds value, who is incredibly valuable, who has life. Like I love you, right? And so it's like the same way that I would say like my identity isn't fully tied to being Latina or the oldest daughter. Like
that was a really interesting identification. Okay.
Well, I'm a firstborn daughter. That's important.
Mismo. Fuerte.
Yes, you are strong. And so it's just one part of your identity. Right. And so it's like
but do you think that but I hear you, but I don't know if like the whole church is
that's what I'm saying. Like as a church, as a global church, I want to be clear about that.
Yeah.
I don't think we've done a good job at majors and minors, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like we can choose to focus on like one really specific thing because I can go through like lying, right? Like that's a sin. So it's like we simply choose to like fixate on different things and things we like or don't like the same way that people fixate on race or colorism or like weird things, you know what I'm saying? That like aren't.
But I think right now we're in a culture where people are picking everything. Yeah. And I think that's how we got here, right? Yeah. Is that people are picking literally every battle. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the point.
Like I think if you were going to, well, I'll just talk about it in the terms of our friendship. Like if I had to choose Megan in any which way, like I'm going to love you. Like if tomorrow you're like, trying to think something crazy that you would do. I don't know.
Well,
I guess if you started taking steroids and you became a beast of a human being, and like I can agree with that. My thing is that I love you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And like, well, I mean, good for you.
Yeah, and I would have a conversation of like, hey, like this is kind of like how I feel about it. I don't agree with this. I don't think it's healthy for your body. Mm-hmm. But I love you, right? Yeah. And I think if it started to like damage your if it started to like damage your health, then I'd be like, hey, I love you and this is damaging you and I don't think this is good and healthy. Then I'd try to get you help, or I'd be like, okay, well, this is what she's decided, but I love her. Yeah. You know? And like I think of like my mom who's, I mean, yeah, she's pretty liberal, but she's also conservative-ish. Yeah. And like she called you for your wedding day and she just wanted you to know that she like cared about you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like she didn't have to agree with like anything else, but she was like, well, I care about her as a person. Like she's someone's important. She is someone important to my daughter's life, and like I care about her. And like when you and Vicky have walked through things, like her heart still hurts because she loves you guys. Yeah, you know. And so it's like she still prays and believes for you guys, and like that's how I feel about it too. I mean, I'm in the trenches. We're a lot closer than you are with my mom, but I love you no matter what.
Yeah,
so it's like if I have
feel
to
like
pick,
how do we as I'm going to say generation, right? Because the boomers will get wiped out by coronavirus. I'm just kidding. I called my dad today. Talk about boomer. I love that guy. I just want to say this. I hope he watches this. I had a conversation. I was stuck in traffic. It took me 2 hours to get home. I called my dad before I called Vicky. Yes. I called my dad, who I refer to as Larry. And I was talking to Larry, and I was asking about his vitamin D, because there's been a lot of proof that vitamin D is bad for folks with coronavirus. Okay. Yeah, and so if you have low vitamin D, you're more susceptible to coronavirus and dying from it. Yeah. And
so is he going out to town every day?
He got a supplement. But okay. And I told him that he needed to lose a little bit of weight. Mm-hmm. He's overweight. And I understand. And he was like, I know. He's like, I'm really trying.
How was he trying?
And I was like, you need to drink more water. Yeah. And I was like, Dad, you really need to drink more water. He's like, I can't. He's like, I'm drinking so much. And I was like, really?
In comparison to what?
And he goes, yeah, I'm drinking like 4 or 5 Gatorades a day.
No. That's like, sugar water.
I know. I was like, Larry, Gatorade does not equal water.
At all.
I know. I was like, clear water.
Oh, I hate clear water.
I mean, and I was like, I was like, Dad, okay, while I'm in traffic, I'm going to give you some nutrition advice. This is free. I need you to try to drink a gallon of water a day.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. He's like, can I drink more? And I was like, you won't want to drink more. Start with that.
You can't even drink one, Larry.
I know. 4 or 5 Gatorades a day.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm killing it. And I told Vicky what he said. And Vicky goes, man, they are marketing that Gatorade well.
For real, though.
I know.
That's not even a temptation of mine. So we have some friends, Steven and Michelle.
Yeah.
And Michelle gave me like this little care package. And there was like vital proteins, collagen, vitamin, immune C booster or something. It tasted like straight salt. Nope, I couldn't do it.
Well, so Gatorade and a lot of those kinds of things have sodium in them, right?
Yeah.
So there's sodium in them. Depending on like if you're running and you're sweating a lot, that sodium can help replenish electrolytes.
Yeah.
My dad is not sweating enough to need electrolyte replenishment. And I told him, I was like, he also eats a lot of canned food.
Oh, geez.
Canned ravioli, canned SpaghettiOs. And I was like, the amount of sodium that you're consuming.
Yeah, for real.
I was like...
Water retention. He can't even handle the water he currently has.
I know. But if he drinks enough water, it'll flush him. But I was like, let's start with water. I love it. Anyways,
Hilarious.
I don't even remember.
We digress.
Yeah.
We were talking about generationally.
Oh, yeah, boomers. I was saying they're going to get wiped out. I think like big picture, our generation, they're so quick to be like, I just disagree with you.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff you say about the church that I just disagree with.
Yeah.
Like, and you're in it, and you're like, this is my experience, and I think that can be this really positive thing. And I'm like, well, Taz, I went to like 9 different churches, and all 9 of them made me feel really freaking weird.
Yeah.
So I just disagree. And you're like, well, agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But I just wish that more people were willing to have conversations with people about things they disagree with.
Yeah.
So that they could say, you know what? I don't like you any less. I just don't agree with you about that thing.
Yeah. But I think it's because I'm going to go back to it. Like, I feel comfortable enough in my experience, and I've never walked your experience. My experience has been very, very different. Like, I would say the church that I was in, like, 16 through like 21 was one church, and I thought I had this understanding of like grace. I had this understanding of like my walk with Jesus, and I thought I loved people, and I thought like I saw people, and I had a really difficult experience there. And so ultimately when I came to Dallas, like, it was not my jam. I knew I always loved Jesus. I knew that I wanted to like at some point get back to it. I just didn't think it was going to be at a church or with people.
Vocational.
I never thought I'd work at a church for sure. And when you and I met, was I already in a relationship?
I don't know.
I guess I might have already been in a relationship.
I don't usually lead with that.
Hey, are you in a relationship?
That's at that time I was incredibly masculine looking. I was heavier, had very short hair, and if I would have walked up to you at the Apple store and been like, "Hey, my name's Megan. Are you in a relationship?" She would have immediately thought I was interested in it. No. Not like that. Just asking. I ask everyone.
Yeah. So I was.
So are you?
So I was in a relationship, and we were going to a church. I mean, he would come every once in a while. Yeah, interesting. And I just wasn't super plugged in. Like, I would go, or I would stop going for 3 months, and then go straight for 2 months, or whatever that looked like. And so I thought, okay, like, I've got my walk with Jesus. It's kind of my own thing. But I definitely wasn't in a healthy place. Like, I wasn't walking my life like I knew Jesus.
Physically or emotionally?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, God. And so whenever we broke up, I went to like the other extreme, and I just went crazy. Like, I did whatever I wanted.
Partying or just praying all the time?
No. Partying.
Okay.
Partying. So I went to like the other extreme. Like, if I saw someone and I wanted to do it, I did it. And if I wanted to do a drug, I did it. If I wanted to smoke, I just went to the other extreme.
Yeah, get you some.
It was a really crazy few months. And when, like, kind of in the midst of it, I just got tired. I think, like, I had been in a really unhealthy relationship, and then I went to the extreme where I was like, I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And that just made me feel super, super empty.
Yeah.
And so I was going to a church when I lived in Austin, and that's where I heard my current pastor, and I really liked him. And
gotcha.
so
I didn't really know that journey.
Yeah. And so when I decided to move back to Dallas, Michael, who is one of our friends,
Your
who's
now
my
brother-in-law?
yeah, was like, oh, if you're in town, you should come to church with me. And it ended up being the church where I had heard my pastor, who's currently my pastor. And it was just so different. Like, I remember someone having a conversation with me and saying, like, whatever you're looking for, you're not going to find it here. And I was like, okay, weird. And I think a part of me kept fighting something that I had experienced in the past. And what she was telling me was, like, whatever you're looking for, you're not going to find that here. And so obviously, like, we say this all the time, but, like, the church is not a museum for perfect works of art or completed works of art. It's a hospital for people who are broken. Yeah. And I think once that clicked for me, then, like, it really changed the way I saw people. And so it was like, okay, well, I know people are going to fail me. I know this place isn't going to be perfect, but this is not why I come. I come to continuously get better. So it feels like physical therapy. It feels like I'm continuously working on getting better. Yeah. And so I think that has given me so much freedom to then love and accept people where they're at, right? Like, on different parts of the journey. And I think of even in that transition when, like, there was a huge group of friends of ours when, like, we would, you know, have dinners every Sunday and talk and things like that. Like, I think back and, like, I was pretty mean to some of our friends. You know, I was pretty cutthroat to some of our friends, where I would cut them out if they thought differently than me or, you know, I'm not going to say any names, but you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. You know, a handful of friends. And those people aren't really in my life anymore because of some.
Do you wish they were?
I don't know. I think sometimes I'm like, these people were not a healthy friend to me. And, like, I can look back and love and respect them for who they were in my life back then. Yeah. But I don't know how they would fit in my life now. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but unless stuff has changed on both parts. I mean, I definitely feel like it's changed on my part. And so if you're listening to this, I'm sorry that I pushed you away.
I feel like I wish I could go back through my life and apologize to a million people. And I have had conversations with Vicky about, like, looking for people. And you know what? That's the wrong word. I don't want to apologize. I want to say thank you. Yeah. Like, the day I met Vicky, I almost got fired. Yeah. Because I called in sick to work and instead went and got completely inebriated. Yep. And they found out. And I was posting on Instagram. Yeah. I was, like, posting from brunch, wasted, after I had just called in sick. And they pulled me into the office and they were like, you're an idiot. You're a moron. What are you doing? And I didn't get fired. Yeah. They told me if I did it again, I'd get fired. But I didn't get fired that day. And I'm like, I need to find them and say thank you. Like, they saved my life. Yeah. Just having that compassion for me. Through different people have had a lot of compassion for me over the years and allowed me to kind of navigate my own way. But I'm like, man, I want to find them now. Yeah. However many years later and just be like, thank you. Yeah. Like, and I feel like, obviously in the moment, I didn't appreciate what they were doing for me. And now I wish I could just say thank you. Yeah. There's people from, like, college that I had huge fights with that I intend to seek out and say thank you to. Yeah. But I did have a thought while you were talking.
Yeah, go for it.
So there has been, I've heard comparisons made, and I want to know your thought, about CrossFit being a modern church.
Yeah, I see that.
People seeking, as an organized church, has sort of, especially out of the South, because it's still really common in the South. Yeah. But northern, and then especially eastern and western, right? So, like, the coasts and the upper northeast, it's not as common. Like, when I was in D.C., if you would have said, "Oh, I'm a white Christian," it was pretty ostracized. Yeah. Right? Like, you wouldn't admit to something like that there, and I think, like, as those, because you're chairman of Connect Groups.
What's director?
Director of Connect Groups, right? Because people love that community, right? Yeah. People love these small group atmospheres. And I've heard some comparisons to CrossFit as it being this sort of modern church. Yeah.
I think Christianity goes way back. And the idea of church goes way, way back. And so, like, if you look at the beginning of time, right? Like, I mean, let's just say I'll go back to the book of Genesis. You had this kind of happen, right? Like you had these people be like, oh, we have a common thought idea. We're going to get together in small groups, have these conversations. And then you can go back, you can go forward a little bit more. And then you even look at like Greek times and Roman times, and people are like, oh, we have similar ideas, or we want to learn from each other. So we're going to get into like this smaller group and have this discussion. And then you can forward a little bit more, and you can go into like 1950s, 1960s, like community organizing and like in political work. And it was just like really natural to be in like these small groups of people. And then it's like you'd have these large gatherings for like general conversations, and then you would have these much smaller gatherings for like in-depth discussion. And so it's kind of woven into like humanity since the very beginning of time, for you to be like, oh, hey, we have like this general idea that we think like CrossFit is great. These are our general rules of CrossFit. But then you can have like individual gyms that are like, hey, I know this gym is really good for this part of it, CrossFit, or we're CrossFitters who believe this part or that part.
Well,
don't you guys have different specializations in your gyms?
no. But
that is not true. I feel like I've known you to be like, oh, well, I went to this gym because this was something that was like a strength of a coach.
I am different.
Okay.
What I do is outside of the norm.
Okay.
But like, let's put it in the context of Vicky.
Yeah.
Vicky goes to CrossFit to see her friends.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Vicky goes to CrossFit to see her friends. She goes, because I think like, especially through technology and like a lot of people work from home or they have their cubicles, and it's this super isolated, right? So even before Vicky was working from home, she sees me at home. She goes to work in a cubicle, super isolated all day long. And then without CrossFit, she would return and see me.
Yeah.
So over the course of the day, she sees one person. And I think a lot of people, even if you have a spouse or kids, over the course of the day, you see 3 people.
Yeah.
And I think in large group settings, like if you have a meeting or a concert or a basketball game, unless you bring someone with you, you don't feel less isolated. You still feel super alone. Like Vicky took me to Taylor Swift at the American Airlines Center. In that arena, could not have felt more isolated.
What I wouldn't felt.
I'm not a huge
isolated.
Taylor Swift fan.
I'm not a Taylor Swift fan at all.
And so I literally just like sat and played Sudoku on my iPhone. Actually, I was like probably researching biomechanics of knee rotation or something. But so I don't think large gatherings, right? But like with CrossFit, it's this opportunity for her to go see the same, because she always goes to, they have group classes. So she goes to the 5:30 class.
Yeah.
So she sees the same 6 people for an hour.
Yeah.
Every single day. And I think it gives people this sense of community, this sense of belonging, surrounded in a positive way.
Yeah.
Outside of, this, back and forth sphere, which I think is like what because
that's actually my role.
Yeah. So your church has, or I think a lot of churches are doing it now, to make people feel included. They break down this large group into smaller groups so people feel welcome and feel included. And I think that's exactly like what CrossFit's doing. And I think that they're able to charge, like if you were to go to a level 1 seminar, or if you were to talk to Greg Glassman, founder of CrossFit, what makes CrossFit successful?
Yeah.
They'll tell you all about how it's the best training methodology on earth. But if you ask all the Vickies, because Vicky's 32 years old, right? And she's a 32-year-old woman, which makes up 65% of the CrossFit community.
Yeah.
That demographic, the 30 to 35 female, they all go to see their friends.
Yeah.
That's why they're going.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit about CrossFit.
Yeah.
They don't care about, if I was like, Vicky, what's your 1 rep max squat clean? She'd be like, I have no idea. And I don't care.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do you go to CrossFit? See my friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in what other reality can we in our culture go see the same group of 6 friends every single day?
Yeah. No, I guess.
Church?
Yeah. Naturally, you don't. I mean, again, I feel like we kind of all at some point gravitate. Like, I think if it's something successful, it'll gravitate to like this smaller group. And so, yeah, I mean, we're really intentional about that, making sure that like.
But church is free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pros and cons.
It's definitely free. You don't have to pay to go there.
CrossFit's really expensive.
Yeah. There you go. You just go to church. It'll be much cheaper.
Now all my viewers are gonna quit CrossFit and join church.
1000%. I have a Connect group for you.
All 21 subscribers.
Yeah. You can have your own CrossFit Connect group. I mean, if you
Is
want
that
to
a thing? Are your groups
they're themed.
themed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So like
I don't think I ever realized that.
Yeah. So in my Connect group, it was a dinner party. So pre-COVID, we would just come
Gotcha.
together and everybody would bring something. So we'd have like a theme. It'd be like, well, we're doing Mexican. So everybody brings like something Mexican food related, soul food, et cetera, et cetera. And
Gotcha.
there's actually a group of girls in my Connect group who met at CrossFit and they were friends and they decided to come to church together. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That makes sense, though. That's logical. I get where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Man. I'm having so many thoughts all at once.
What else?
I wanted to talk about... I just really wanted to talk about how, as a generation, we can have more open conversations about our differences.
I think it's just seeing that people have immeasurable value. Like, no matter who
Do you think
they
at the
are.
root of it, people are insecure?
I feel like insecure, the word makes sense for us, but I think it's so much more than that. Like, I don't know that people even consciously are like, I'm insecure. It's that they just don't know fully who they are. And like, if you don't know fully who you are, yes, a result of that is going to be insecurity. And therefore you're going to feel threatened by any difference or anything that isn't familiar.
Yeah.
You
You
but I
think
think
that
it's so
people-
much more of like a lack of identity and like knowing who you are. And like, if you're comfortable in knowing who you are, then like, again, someone's differences don't. Yes, sometimes people's differences can personally affect me because they do something dumb with them, right? But overall, just you being Megan, right? And all of who you are doesn't, unless you chose to use your strength against me physically, you would definitely kill me. I know. Obviously, that would affect me, right? But like just you standing there and being yourself.
But what
I'm not
can
like,
we do? What can I do? Like, okay, for example, okay, I'm very into fitness.
Yeah.
And I hear often when I talk to, let's say, my dad. My dad is actually really receptive to dialogue, but usually he and I have very different opinions about more than we even differ about. He's incredibly conservative. He's very passionate about horses. He's very into horses. He fell off a horse recently. He calls me from an ambulance, and he's like, Megan, just want to let you know, I fell off the horse. I got a brain bleed. They're taking me to the...
What? Larry.
I want to say ICU. But he was
No.
he was in an ambulance. They had to take him to the hospital to do brain scans because he had his brain was bleeding. Or, no, he was already at the hospital. I don't even know. And Vicky was so mad. She was like, get me on the phone. She's like, why were you not wearing a helmet? She doesn't know anything about Texas.
Yeah.
So Vicky was
What's
like,
a helmet?
why were you not wearing a helmet? And I was like, Vicky, stop. You don't wear helmets on. and Larry was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not.
She doesn't
Anyways, but like, for example, if I come at Larry and I'm like, hey, Larry, like, you should exercise more. People say to me all the time, they're like, yeah, but you wouldn't understand because for you, it's easy. For you, this is this. For you, this is this.
Yeah.
And I want to just, like, I want to have better conversations with people about, like, hey, if this is your priority, but for you,
Yeah.
for you, like, if you were like, hey, Megan, I want to lose some weight, or I want to be healthier, right,
Yeah.
or whatever. Like, that's usually the conversation. Is people are like, hey, what would I do? And I'm like, okay, well, you know, this or this or this. People are like, well, that would be easy for you, and people immediately are kind of like defensive.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, then I think, again, that's where it's at, where it's like, you and I have actually had that
Rapport.
conversation. And yeah, we do have rapport amongst us.
Yeah.
But we have had that actual conversation, right? Of like, hey, like, whatever, I need to be healthier. And I think people have immediately assumed that you think they are not healthy because they don't this, or that, right? And I think that is where it's like, what made you so doubtful in who you were, that it made you question and be on the defense of who Megan was, right? Because we have actually had this conversation of how I need to be healthier. And like right now, I keep wiggling around because my knee's bothering me. And the thing is, my knee's bothering me.
You've been squatting too heavy?
No.
Same.
Yeah, my full body is what I'm carrying. And so I know that I am overweight at the moment, right? Which is affecting my knee, which is kind of crazy because I came over here, like a month ago to pick up a jump rope because I wanted to exercise more and get more into cardio, which then me jumping rope has affected my knee, right? And it's like, meh. And so, like whenever I talk to you about this, I don't feel like you're going to attack me because I'm overweight.
Does it make you feel weird though?
No. But I think it's this, like, exercising is important to you, right? Like it is. The same way that like church is important to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The way that church is a priority to me, exercise is a priority to you. It's important. But you not thinking that church is a priority doesn't like change anything. It doesn't make me think that like you're against me. Yeah. Again, we try to align where we can. Like you indulge me and you listen to the sermon because you like we've talked about this, why we're still friends, why you come to my birthday party every year because you know it's so important to me, right?
Yeah.
And it's not something that like you particularly care for. I mean, you care about me, which is why you do that. And so it's like you've had a birthday where like what you wanted to do for your birthday was exercise.
I already know you're gonna go there.
And so
I had workouts to get done that day.
You did. But the thing is, like, for me, what's important there is my friendship with you more than not exercising. And so I'm willing to do an exercise if it's what's going to get me further connected to you or take care of our relationship. And the same way, like, you don't want to go to the fair you do want to go to the fair every year.
Absolutely.
It's actually a really big deal. So you do come to the fair with me. And I was going to talk about how we hunted down Dole Whip from like 3 different stands to make sure we got some 2 or 3 years ago.
Absolutely.
Which if the fair isn't open this year, I'm going to be devastated.
It will. It'll be a germ cesspool and we'll all die, but it'll be worth it.
No, I'm hoping that by then
I'll wear my respirator.
I'm gonna walk around. Did you see the guy with like the pool tubes?
I'll be sweating. I'll be just sweating with a respirator on. And I'll just tilt it up for my ice cream, my corn dog.
Oh, man. The fair is so good. I love the fair. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that I care about you.
Yeah, but what do we need to do for other folks? Like, we have a good rapport, which is why you came.
But it didn't happen like that. Like, this is literally something that we've worked at since we first met each other.
But how do we get more people to have better, more understanding conversations?
Well, sometimes it's going to stick with people and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, we have a group of friends that we started with. Even when we first met, we have a very different group of friends. And I mean, I have my group of friends, you have your group of friends, and then we have a group of friends that we have together whenever we do get together. And I think we need to be okay with like, sometimes it's going to stick, sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. But you still try with every single person. And like, every single person has something to add. And so you can still like let down, be okay and confident with whatever you believe in, whoever you are, to have the conversation with someone else. Like,
yeah, I actually love to have conversations with people about things I disagree with. And
but it's our personality.
Not to fight at all. I always learn something a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Like my dad made some really polarizing comments today about Bernie Sanders. Which I like Bernie Sanders, but I don't like Bernie Sanders. I was just like, what? Like, why do you say that?
Yeah.
And he's like, he didn't really have great justification. The thing about my dad that kind of.
Does Larry not listen to your podcast?
No,
No.
His contact in my phone keeps trying to auto update to my niece's name because she always plays on his iPhone.
Aww.
I know. I'm like, this is not Eloise. Anyways, but like. He can't always say why he believes what he does. Mm-hmm. But, like, if I have some super conservative military friends, right, that have different opinions about guns than I do. I don't own guns. I've used guns. I'm from Texas, duh.
Yeah.
But they carry guns and own a lot of guns. And I'm just like, well, why? And they're like, well, this is my story, and this is my military history, and this is this, and this is this, and this is this. And I'm like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go buy a gun. That
Yeah.
doesn't change my actions,
Mm-hmm.
but I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And live your life.
Yeah.
And
But then I think that also requires a certain amount of humility that people aren't willing to have, you know?
Maybe.
Because it does take humility to be empathetic and to be like, okay, like, again, but I think humility is so different. Like, I think people think that, like, being humble and humility means, like, oh, I'm meek, I'm weak. And it's not that. It's simply humility is walking confidently in knowing who you are. And, like, it requires a certain amount of humility to have the conversation, to be like, okay, this person might think completely differently than I do. But I'm going to choose not to get defensive. I mean, talking about race.
Yeah, that's tough.
Oh, completely. And, like, I'm just going to talk about you and I, which this doesn't happen. But, like, I could be like, well, that's racist, Megan. Right? Which,
Saying that Hispanic people are going to come help me in my house?
no, I could just say in general that something's racist, right? Number one, my approach is not correct.
But I think that here's the other thing too about race, especially being white.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of white ignorance.
Yeah.
And I say ignorance in terms of, like, lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I did not know a black person until I got to college.
Yeah, but that's not willful.
It's ignorant.
Yeah, but I think that also speaks to, like, some intent too, right? Like, I mean, you weren't like, I don't want to know black people. It just didn't happen that way, and you didn't seek it out. And so I don't think that was, like, willful. And so I think going back to this, you could say something, I don't know. You could say something that you didn't mean to be.
You gotta turn your face.
Sorry. You could say something that doesn't mean to be, that you didn't mean in your heart with the intent to be racist. But I have to have a certain amount of humility to have the conversation and to know that, like, whenever you said something that was unintentionally racist, but
Hurtful.
it was, for me to be like, hey, Megan, I actually want to have a conversation with you really quickly about how this was racist. But you also then have to, in turn, have the humility to know that I'm not attacking you.
Yeah.
And you have to be like, hey, you know what? I'm confident that I'm not racist, so therefore I'm okay having this conversation, understanding why you thought this was racist, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it could be like, oh, I simply learned that Megan, this was just something super normal that she thought was, like, okay and acceptable, or she didn't have that perspective, so therefore she didn't think it was racist. And at the end of it, you could leave like, oh, I've never thought about it this way, but I get why she would think it's racist, so therefore I'm not going to say it anymore. And then I would be like, well, I'm not going to assume that everybody's racist because they say these things. But that required humility.
I see what you're saying. Like, on both parts, right?
1,000%.
Like, I could say, like, if I said something, which I very well may, at some point, say something super ignorant.
We've both said things that are ignorant.
Of, whatever. In whatever context. Towards whatever group of people. And I could be like, I meant no malice in that.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny and it wasn't funny. I thought it was funny and it was just flat out rude. But it was ignorance, right?
Yeah.
And, like, I apologize. I meant no malice. I think that we also always assume, Apple taught us, as a generate, like, I think in society through the media, whatever, we're always assuming negative intent.
Yeah.
We're saying, like, oh, you said that thing that was racist, instead of being like, I'm going to assume they didn't know that was racist and they were just kind of ignorant, and I'm going to be like, hey, that could be really, really hurtful.
Yeah.
If you said that to that person, like, you're Hispanic, but if you made that comment towards a black person, that would be really hurtful. Yeah. And you shouldn't say that. And I could be like, oh, I thought that was funny. It wasn't funny.
Yeah.
It was rude and ignorant, and I apologize.
Yeah.
And I think I wish we had more conversations like that.
Yeah.
Being like I have conversations with my wife all the time that I hurt her feelings.
Lots of conversations.
All the time.
Yeah.
And we have to have conversations where it's like, well, I never meant to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
I was hungry.
See, seems like a common.
Yeah, but I'm just saying this is real life. Where I have to be like, I was hungry, and I said this snappy thing that hurt your feelings, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a break, eat a snack, and let's circle back. Because I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
Yeah. And I think, that's going back to, like, you value her. It's important.
Yeah.
You know and believe in what you guys have together, so therefore it allows you the freedom and strength to be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna step back a little bit and then I'll come back to it, you know? And that
Yeah, I hear you.
I
Yeah. I
no, it's just different.
I hope that we can all grow.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, we are super privileged, I would say, to have the perspective we have, to have found each other in life where we found each other.
I thought you meant in general, and I was like, yes, I'm very privileged.
That too. I mean, yes, I have privilege. And so it's like...
We have privilege
but
being born in the United States.
Yeah, and that we speak 2 languages. Like, it's another one. There's so many. And the other thing is, like, where we met, being a
At
woman...
the Apple store?
Yes, working for Apple. It was never like, we don't have enough representation. It was we also got paid really well and competitively. And we did really well for ourselves. We were pretty high up in our positions and things like that.
I was the best genius this side of the Mississippi.
You really were. You fixed all my broken computers that I broke trying to fix.
Do you remember I took you aside at Nordstrom's and I was like, Taz, I love you. Stop skipping the IMAX. I know you're doing it. I know you're doing it. I know you're...
Yeah, but the thing is that if I did them, you would then have to come back and fix them. And repair times would go even further.
I'm not skipping IMAX. And I was like, yes, you are. No, I'm not. I'm like, okay.
I'm like that one person. Sorry. I'm like that one person who said they weren't actually taking your computer. And
We know you're skipping IMAX.
Yeah, I intentionally did that. It was just a different time where I wasn't comfortable admitting it. But today I admit to you that I was indeed skipping IMAX because if I touched them, I would have broken them.
Well, we knew that you were skipping IMAX when there was 0 laptops and 8 IMAX.
Yeah.
And you know the managers told me to talk to you about it?
That's hilarious because I had so many conversations about how, like, hey, can you talk to Megan about...
Oh, yeah. They told me, Jen, another person I need to talk to. But Jen told me one day she got so upset with me. She was like, you're so unapproachable. You know no one wants to talk to you. The managers, they didn't want to talk to me. And I was like...
That did happen.
Huh?
That did happen.
I'm sure. At both stores. Anyways, I digress.
But look at us. Look at us. We're so much more successful.
Look at us.
Look at us.
Look at us. I was actually
we made
talking to Vicky in context of this conversation about how we've both grown so much.
Oh my gosh, so much.
In both, like, in completely different ways, but both both forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we're both completely different people now.
Yeah.
In such a more positive way.
Yes.
But completely different paths. It's
Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah.
And I think as long as we encourage everyone around us to, like, be better, that, like, we all rise, right? There's this quote, and I never remember it when I want to, but it's, like, something about high tide rises all boats.
Okay.
It's, like, basically, like, if you, like, to bring people with you, right?
Yeah.
To try to, like, set, like, the highest expectation for yourself and then just, like, bring other people with you.
Yeah.
That's what I always want to do. Like, with the home, like, we have this home gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I love. And as the coronavirus has sort of chilled out, people that were before being like, hey, can I work out at your house? And I was like, no, because I don't want to die. But now it's all kind of chilled out. And I'm like, yeah. Because I want to be surrounded by elite mindset.
Yeah.
Because I want us to all get better together.
Yeah.
And I hope we do.
Yeah.
I hope we all win.
And I would say, like, in my group of friends, it's all kind of like that. Like, I mean, Steven and Michelle are really amazing in what they do. My brother-in-law, my sister, like, I mean, my church friends, like, they're absolutely the best at wherever they're at. And I think that just pushes us forward. And again, like, we're able to celebrate, like, you're really good at this. I'm really good at that. We're different, but, like, our end goal is kind of the same, like, to be the absolute best or to push this one thing forward. And before we actually started recording, I had this thought, and it was like, I think that is something that, like, even though we're incredibly different, like, I just want you to be the absolute best version of yourself. And so whatever that looks like, then, like, I'm completely going to celebrate it and encourage it. And I think you're going to do the same for me. So, like, you know that the best version of myself, yes, it's probably a healthier version of myself, but it's not a CrossFit, weightlifting version of myself.
Yeah, but the other
you still
thing
see
is
that I'm growing.
You can't want that for somebody.
Yeah, no. But then it's like
if I don't want to go to church, you just keep nagging me about it. It's just gonna make us weird.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't want to exercise and I just keep nagging you about it, you're just gonna find me annoying.
Yeah.
So it's like love them for who they are and where they're at, and let the rest go.
Yeah. That's more important to me.
Yeah.
That's more important to me.
I think that's important for everybody. It's like my dad. My dad and I have completely different values, but
Yeah, but there's also people who like care more about winning that like that one fight, that one battle, than it is like to have a lifelong relationship or friendship or whatever. I mean,
100%. That's what I'm saying. We're in a culture now where everyone is picking every battle.
Yeah.
Right? And I want us as a generation to get past that.
Yeah.
So that we assume positive intent about everyone, and we assume that and so we all get better together, right? I want to be the best version of, I love the United States.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly patriotic. I think the United States has...
America.
I do. I love Texas.
I do.
I love Texas.
Me too.
I have no intention of leaving Texas. I think Texas is the greatest state on earth.
Yeah. In the Union?
Beyond the Union. The greatest
state ever.
Yeah, we're the best.
I do think Texas is
and
amazing.
I think the United States has the potential to be better than it is right now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with being less polarized and more conversational about differences and being like, I disagree with you, but we can compromise.
Yeah.
Compromise.
Yeah.
And instead of saying all or nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think if we were to have a conversation, we'd realize that we have so many more similarities that we can build upon. What's super crazy is, like, there's this guy at church who, he would never have been my friend, like, ever. His name's Chip. He's from Georgia. Okay. Him and his beautiful wife, Miranda, they're amazing. I love them, but they're completely different than me. And there's some of, like, I really love those people.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it's, like, I can definitely see, like, what does bring us together, and we care about similar things. Mm-hmm. Just our experiences took us to believing what we currently believe. But yeah, I think, like, I completely forget the majority of the time that we're so different because...
You and Chip?
Me
and Joanna Gaines?
Yep, Chip and Miranda. That Chip and I, like, there's so much more in common that we have, you know?
Yeah. I had a thought, but I forgot. Oh, I did my 23andMe.
And?
I'm British. And Welsh.
Groundbreaking.
Nobody knew.
Groundbreaking.
Nobody could tell based off my clear, translucent skin. You know how, like, when they have those...
You totally look British. I see it now.
I don't know. You know when they do the, like, the ads for those? People are like, oh, like, Elizabeth Warren is 1% Pocahontas. God bless her. She might be. But there was 0% of me that was anything other than Caucasian.
What?
It was like British, Welsh, German, Scandinavian, Norwegian.
Don't you feel like they took your money? Did you need to know the breakdown of your caucasity?
Do I feel like they took my money because they told me I was white?
Yeah. White.
It was a gift.
Oh, okay.
It was
great.
It was a gift because I'm adopted. And second, although
Wait.
this is...
If you're adopted, you just get 23andMe for free?
No, Vicky bought it.
Oh. I was like, what?
Vicky bought it because I'm adopted. And
Yeah.
But my family that I grew up with, Larry, super German.
Yeah.
Although also Anglo. But he's really German, and so I want to know if I was German.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I'm British.
Yeah. Again, what a surprise.
Yeah, I was like, no Pocahontas.
Nothing
No
else.
African. No Greek.
Also,
no Mediterranean. Nothing.
I'm
White.
not Native American, but I think you saying Pocahontas might be a little bit racist.
It's a reference to Elizabeth Warren. But I guess she got in trouble for saying that as well.
Yeah. Just wanted to put that out there because I wanted to make sure that I was really mindful of Native Americans who might be listening to this. And who could possibly take offense.
Yeah, ignorance is.
It's okay. We're getting there. We're having a conversation and we're getting better.
There's nothing other than white.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm sorry. I wish everybody could capture this face right now.
I was sad, though. I wanted to be...
You're different. It's okay. You're different. You're different.
Well, in what context? Otherwise, no. Pretty much.
It's okay. One day, baby Greg might be something else.
Greg will be Italian.
Oof.
Because it's not coming from these British loins.
It's so funny. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that we talked about Kanye West.
Okay. What's your favorite album?
Okay. I get that musically it might not be people's favorite album, and I feel like this is when people started to be like, oh, he's turning, we don't know, blah, blah, blah. But The Life of Pablo means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because of the time when it came out. It was kind of like this crazy season of my life. And then it was also at the same time that I decided to like walk with Jesus again. And so that album, I feel like is really him kind of being like, well, there's this part of me and there's this part of me. And like, I'm starting to see Jesus and I'm starting to like, you know, kind of walk with God again. And it's kind of a beautiful mess.
Do you think that made being Christian cool?
It didn't hurt.
Huh. Did y'all see like a ton of like hipster kids coming?
No, it was like,
all in their Yeezus swag.
I do think that's common now, but I think it's also because, I mean, we could talk about this more, but it's like streetwear and how it's now become like high-end wear and things like that.
Touche.
It is. I mean, Virgil is the head of Louis Vuitton, so
there's a lot of Vice documentaries about that.
Yeah, it's not like a new groundbreaking theme in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just overall people were in this place where like they identified with it. I identified with that album. I think before that, I love My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I mean, I love Kanye since the beginning. I remember I was 17. I was working at a hair salon, and so wild. And I heard Through the Wire for the first time. Yeah. And when I found out that it was actually him singing with his mouth wired
Through the
shut,
Wire,
it blew my mind. And so it was like, oh my gosh, his need to create was like beyond me. And so like even now I'm like a Kanye apologist because of that. It's like people are like, I don't understand him, he's so full of himself. And I'm like, well, he kind of has a reason to be.
You think he struggles with mental illness?
Yeah,
100%.
but he's open about that.
Yeah.
And like I think something really traumatic happened to him. He lost his mom and it triggered something he already was struggling with. Yeah. But like even where we were culturally, like it's not the way it is now where like you can go to a therapist and like people aren't like, what's wrong? You're crazy. And like it's more normal to say that like you've got bipolar disorder or that you've got depression and like it was just a turning point. And so it's like even now like he's starting to be like more normalized, right? But he had to go through like something really traumatic. He hit rock bottom. Like we all got to see that. It was crazy. And then he's starting to get like his ground again and he's decided to follow Jesus, you know?
Why do you think that Kanye fans are so loyal? I go through waves where I'm like, oh, I mean, I used to be a huge Kanye West fan. And I think...
Where do you think it fell off for you?
I don't really like the way he treats his family.
In what way? My phone's like buzzing really bad, sorry.
I don't know him personally, but he seems to really not spend a ton of time with his family. Even now, like I'm reading like, oh, he and Kim are staying separately during quarantine, and Kim's with the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I never see it. I mean, unless they're all in a group, you never see him and North, like... I mean, you see Travis Scott and his daughter hanging out, like riding bikes together.
But that's what you...
You never see Kanye West and Northwest out front on balance bikes living their best life.
I just feel like we don't get to see every part of their life. Like, we get to see what they choose to show us.
Paparazzi's out in the bushes, yo.
Yes, to a certain degree, but, like... They have a very different reality than us. Like they're not like we are.
Yeah. Well, you know? I mean, yes and no. I think he struggles with mental illness.
Yes.
I do think that he is a visionary. Mm-hmm. And has a lot of genius.
Yes.
But I think we also have to recognize that human element of him and kind of be like, sometimes it's too much.
Yeah. I think the reason people are so loyal is because we've seen him reinvent himself so many times, and there's probably one version of Kanye West that somebody identifies with. And so I think it's easy to be like, oh, I remember when we were there. Or, you know, the other thing is that he's not just a musician, he's also like an artist, and he's also in fashion.
Yeah.
And he has kind of like hit every single part of society.
Culture.
Yeah, and culture for sure. And so even if you don't like Kanye West, the artist, you can still appreciate Kanye West, the businessman, or you can appreciate Kanye West, the artist. And so I think it makes it easier for people to be loyal when they can, when you're so varied of a person. Like, there are so many layers to Kanye West. It's crazy because I'd never heard anyone talk about it like this until I heard Dissect. And Dissect talked about, it's a podcast, and they talked about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and the whole album. And for me, it was like, I knew that if like Kanye West lost his hearing and he had to cut the legs off of his piano so that he could feel the vibration to like write music the way like Beethoven, or I don't remember who it is, or Mozart did it, that he would do that. So it's like Kanye West would find any way to create, even if he like lost his, I don't know, sense of sight, you know, like he would still find a way. And so that made me really, really appreciate him. And I love how like he's continuously reinventing himself. And like, man, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I haven't liked, you know, like.
There's a lot of his auto-tune stuff I don't like. It's so over auto-tuned.
Yeah.
I'd rather him just collaborate with somebody than just auto-tune the shit out of his stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like,
but I think that's him also, like, it's like the way that you can play a guitar and like you can add stuff to it and remove it to like give it different sounds. Like, his voice is his instrument, so he simply found a way to be like, well, I'm just gonna play around with this as much as possible. And you don't like it, and that's okay. And I think you don't have to like the sound, but you can still appreciate what he did with like messing around with his instrument. You know?
I think he's, you know, he's the Madonna of our generation.
Yeah.
For sure.
I love Kanye.
Yeah. And
They're like, whenever people are like, what's the first thing you listen to when you're just in the car? It's like, I'll listen to Kanye all day, every day.
Imagine Dragons.
I listen to Nickelback.
No, I actually love Imagine Dragons. It's like, it's actually funny because people make fun of me so much for it.
I mean, it's not bad. It's like
so
enjoyable.
unapologetic.
Yeah, I mean, it's enjoyable music.
I feel like they get me.
So I've gone through a phase of like, there's 3 people that I've like listened to continuously. Kanye West has just been the. Oh no,
I love Kesha.
You would. Can you dress like her for Halloween?
Sure.
Yes.
I don't know if it's much different than my current outfit. It's just a lot of glitter.
You're probably gonna end up looking like JoJo Siwa or whatever her name is.
You know, yeah, today is her 17th birthday.
Whoa, so somebody made fun of her online talking about how she doesn't dress her look her age. So she just let her hair down and then they gave her crap about that. So damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Poor JoJo.
I know.
Man, she's going to wipe her eyes with dollar bills.
She's going to mix that glitter up. Be real sad.
Oh, this money, I don't know what to do.
I know. People don't like me. I don't act my age.
I don't think she cares.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Again, because she's so confident in who she is, and she's super rich, so it doesn't matter.
She has all that money.
So the 3 people that I have gone through phases where I listened to.
Tell me about it.
John Mayer.
Okay.
Like, where I would just listen to like all John Mayer.
Okay.
The last thing of John Mayer that I really listened to was Battlefield of the Mind.
Okay.
I think that's what it was. Battlefield. I don't know. I feel like that's the last album because before he went like real folksy and country, and like I don't really listen to.
I love his new
John
vibe,
Mayer.
but anyways, carry on.
And Miguel.
His John Mayer's post Katy Perry vibe.
Yeah, not super into it.
Who? Miguel?
Miguel.
Interesting.
You've heard
I
of Miguel.
know, but
The only thing is that it's like sex music, so it's like
yeah.
I
wouldn't say Miguel's on my top 5, but
I will listen. So, are you on House Party at all?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, House Party is an app where like you would say I'm on, and then just anyone can just jump into your video call. We could actually do a house party right now and see who's on.
I'm okay.
Okay, great. Well, Miguel was having a concert on House Party. And so I get into House Party and my friend joins me as I'm trying to look at House Party. But I didn't know this was a feature. And I was like trying to hang up and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I don't want to talk to this person right now. And I keep getting on House Party to look at Miguel. And then this friend jumps on. And I'm just like, I don't want to talk to you. I just want to listen to Miguel. But it was really awful and terrible. So I was like voice texting him and I was like, hey, Ely, sorry, not trying to talk to you. I don't know what's happening. I don't know how to use House Party. How can I not talk to you when I joined this? Well, I mean, he's great and pleasant, but I was trying to enjoy an hour with Miguel. It'd been a minute, but.
I feel like that was such an emotionally intimate story that you told. And I really don't know where to go from here.
It was very emotionally charged, I will say that. It was like a lot of stuff happening in like a short period of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you shared that.
Yeah, I just wanted to share this story about Miguel and one of the people I listened to.
Yeah.
Often. But yeah. Anything else that we...
No, that's it.
Do you feel emotionally exhausted? That's what you look like right now.
I was trying so hard to think about who my third would be if I had a top 3. I would say Imagine Dragons, Kesha, and who else am I so passionate about as an artist? I actually was laughing because if you look at my Spotify, my recently searched artists, it was recent searches. Okay, Kesha.
Oh, jeez.
Kanye West.
Uh-huh.
My sister-in-law, Catherine. The Weeknd.
Oi.
Fishin' in the Dark by Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Oh, man.
The Scots.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the new Travis Scott Kid Cudi song. 90s country. 90s as a genre. And Benny Blanco.
Okay. This is my last 3 searches.
Okay.
Recent.
Okay,
No Limit. I was trying to find a G-Eazy song.
Oh, okay.
No Limit was the first one.
Yeah.
And then G-Eazy. And then the last one is Yo Perreo Sola from Bad Bunny. It's a great song.
Okay.
And then trending currently, Russ, Hold Me While You Wait, and Noah Cyrus.
There's a band called Arizona. Have you ever heard of them?
Probably.
I love them. That'd be probably my top 3.
Arizona.
Anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave it here. And
No other burning. Wow, I just ruined that.
That's why we need headsets.
I know.
And, man, I don't even really know what hashtags we're going to put on this video. It was a little long.
It was all over the place.
But it
I
was
hope you
good.
cut stuff
I
out.
feel I can't, we're not going to cut anything out. We'll just post the whole thing.
Ooh.
Very Joe Rogan-y, and I hope people enjoyed it and learned from it.
I definitely don't listen to Joe Rogan enough, but no, you just made a face. I don't like him, and I don't
I have
like...
to sneeze.
Oh.
He just went to Spotify. $100 million deal.
Jeez.
Do you
And I
think-
also don't like Gary Vaynerchuk. Or whatever.
He always talks about the same thing. I like Joe Rogan because he's about something different. So, like, maybe today's guest isn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow's is.
I think it's just like his voice. He's like... "Ah."
Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
And every episode he talks about MMA and how whatever guest he has on should do MMA. And he also talks continuously about how much meat he eats.
Oi. How's
Yeah.
his heart?
Probably
Physically.
fine. I think he's fine. He takes a lot of testosterone.
Oi.
I don't really know.
What did Joe Rogan do before?
He's a stand-up comedian and he did Fear Factor.
Yeah, I was
And-
trying to remember what show he was on.
Yeah, Fear Factor. And he's a stand-up comedian. And then he got kind of into the MMA announcing thing. And then he started his podcast. And now he signed $100 million Spotify deal.
Nice.
He's going to have all of his dollar bills just using them as toilet paper.
Yep. Make himself a little wig.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get that big one day.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I'll have been the 124th video on your YouTube channel.
I know. Subscribe. Like and subscribe our video.
Comment below.
Sure.
Don't you have comment sections?
We do, but nobody ever does.
Well,
This
I'll make
might
sure to
get.
comment.
This is pretty polarizing. You might get some comments. It's kind of controversial.
No, I feel like, sure.
Okay. Anyways, then feel free to come by anytime.
I love you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, have a
You're
great
the
day.
best.
Mhm.
Bye.